Here's Johnny.
Take your stinking paws off.
Be cool. Be cool.
You fools! You're in danger! He's alive! He's alive! Wait, 21 gigawatts! Hallelujah! Holy shit! You believe this?
Jack burnt me.
Won't do any good to run, girly boy. Stop it!
What's up, sci-fi lovers, and welcome back to the Lucid Nightmare. I'm your host as always, Jay Schatzer. And today, well, I am back with another sci-fi movie collection video. And we did part 1 last time, we're on to part 2, so hopefully we can churn out a few more of these gems and see what we come up with. So let's get started and not waste any more time. First up is, I'm going to just hit two birds with one stone because I have a version that's just the first movie, and then I have a version that is the 3 movies in the trilogy. So, well, let's just say what franchise I'm talking about in the first place. It is Robocop. So I've got the Robocop 1 on Blu-ray right here. And then I went ahead and got the trilogy Blu-ray with both parts 1, 2, and 3. I know numbers 2 and 3 are not the most heralded of films, but it's kind of nice to have in the collection just to round out the whole trilogy, because the series of films are good, even though it's topped with the first film, Robocop. And yep, it's just a really, really great series by Paul Verhoeven. But I know he didn't direct all 3 of them, but he started the whole tone and feel with Robocop 1. But yeah, it is a hell of a fun film. Another sci-fi satire film from Paul Verhoeven. But yeah, it's just crazy violent. The characters are amazing. We have the main guy who's playing Robocop, or Murphy. Where is he at? Right here. But yeah, he does an amazing job in the role. Peter Weller, which I actually watched a movie with him in the lead called Leviathan, which I'll be reviewing pretty soon because I absolutely love that film. Revisited it yesterday, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put that on the channel for a review because that's a fun film too. But he's amazing in the first Robocop. I know he's in the second Robocop, but he did not reprise his famous role for the third one just because that whole production was kind of messed up. So they had a lot of behind-the-scenes trouble and had to swap out actors, directors, everything. It was just a mess. But yep, got the Robocop trilogy in my collection because it is a classic sci-fi action franchise. And the first one's my favorite though, so probably your favorite too. But let's keep moving on to a newer sci-fi film that just came out a couple years ago, directed by the legendary filmmaker Steven Spielberg, who's had a few ups and downs in his career. I know he's famous for E.T. and all the other Jurassic Park, you name it, all the good ones. There's some ones I don't really like of his. But this one was actually very surprising. When I saw it in the theaters, I went with my daughter because she is just a maniac for video games. She loves anything in the video game world or just anything like that. And with this movie, they pulled a lot of elements from video games, movies, and things like that. So she was hyped for the trailer. We went and saw it, and it was actually really good. I was worried the CGI might have been too overdone, but within the context of the film, they did an amazing job. I'm just going to tell you what the film is if you haven't guessed it. It is Ready Player One. Picked it up on Blu-ray. But like I was saying, it's a very interesting film. I know it's based on a book, never read the book. But I know they didn't copy it verbatim. They kind of translated it in their own terms, kind of loosely based it on different things, but they didn't do it word for word in the book. But the tone and feel of the movie was really, really cool. A lot of pop culture references and just eye candy as far as you can see throughout the film. And that's the one things that my daughter really came away with it, because this is kind of one of her first kind of adult-driven stories or movies that she's seen in theaters. Before, she was always going to Pixar movies, Disney movies, things like that, but she kind of jumped into a new world with Ready Player One, and now she's all about Marvel and things like that. So she's more the teenage adult kind of stuff. Yeah, she absolutely loved it, and I loved it too. I thought it was really cool. Didn't mind the computer-generated characters and kind of world, because it made sense for the story, and it was well done in the first place. But I do miss the practical Steven Spielberg before he went apeshit crazy with effects that were grounded in computer-generated effects. I guess you can see where he first fell in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the Indiana Jones, the last movie, where Shia LaBeouf is swinging from vines with monkeys, and just... it doesn't make any goddamn sense. A director who directs action scenes from Raiders of the Lost Ark becomes that. It doesn't make any sense, and that's what I was worried about this movie. But I was pleasantly surprised that it worked. It worked overall, and it felt genuine, even though it was all computer generated. But yeah, Ready Player One, pretty kick-ass film, intense as hell in points, and just a party and celebration for your eyeballs, pretty much. But cool flick, great premise, really enjoyed it. But let's move on to more classic fare, none of that silly shit like Ready Player One. Let's move on to a Michael Crichton created, I don't know if he directed this one. No, he did not direct this one, but the story is based off of his work. It is The Andromeda Strain. And this one, for people that don't like slow-paced science fiction movies, do not watch this one, because it really is almost by the, I want to say like, not even halfway, it's even before that in the movie. It's all based in an underground laboratory where they're trying to figure out how to defeat a virus that has swept out and killed most of the population. So it's a very contained film, more science-driven, definitely character-driven, and it's just really, really interesting. It's very bleak. It just pretty much shows what would happen from a scientist's point of view if a virus killed a large portion of the population. So it's pretty much them just trying to find a cure for a virus that is like a plague. So it's very, very interesting and dire and downtrodden kind of a film. And yeah, it's just really, really cool. Very interesting. I've been wanting to have this on Blu-ray for a while and picked it up last year sometime, because I owned it on DVD for years. But yeah, absolutely love it. I love Michael Crichton's work, whether he's behind the camera or just writing the stories for these movies. Anything that he touches usually has an interesting twist or some kind of angle to it that makes it worth your watch. So definitely check out The Andromeda Strain if you haven't seen it before. I know they did a mini-series, it's probably 6 years or 7 years maybe, or maybe even longer ago, that they put a mini-series out. Never watched that, but movie is definitely something to check out if you like that kind of fare. But that is one hell of a fun well, not fun, but well done science fiction film. And now, this is a movie, the next one up is, it kind of gets lost in the shuffle of movies. Nobody talks about it too much, but when you watch the film, you appreciate it for what it is. You see the caliber of actors in the film. It's really something that not a lot of people talk about, but when they watch it, they do talk about it because they realize how great it is. The movie I'm talking about is Terry Gilliam's 12 Monkeys. And the cast is absolutely stellar. You have Bruce Willis, pretty much the lead role, and then Madeline Stowe playing a psychologist. And then you have Brad Pitt as a kind of mental patient, rich kid who kind of throws a monkey wrench, no pun intended, into the film. But I revisited it last month, and I was just really blown away by the time travel. I mean, I knew the movie. I remember watching it. I've watched it 100 times probably. But for some reason, it really struck me how well the whole film flowed, and how there are so many clues like laid out throughout the film and everything makes sense. If they mention something in the beginning of the movie, it's going to be brought up, and there's a resolution to that later on. It's a very tightly wound and well-constructed time travel flick that really doesn't have a lot of loose ends, and just really, really thrives in its characters and setting. It's just really, really awesome overall. And I'll be doing a review on this one because I already have it written out and just got to film it and edit it all together because I just feel like talking about it because it's a really badass film. But it's probably one of Terry Gilliam's one of his favorite of his one of my favorites of his. I couldn't word that right. That and Brazil, I think, are some of my favorites. But he's had so many great movies. Just a really innovative director with a great style and eye for things. But yep, 12 Monkeys, totally badass. If you have not seen it, please give it some time, check it out. I know it's on a few streaming services. I believe when I watched it, I just stumbled across it on Amazon Prime, but it could have been on Hulu. I don't think it's on Netflix. Netflix is pretty much shit for older movies. But yep, hunt it down, check it out. Fun as hell. Next movie, we're going to an oldie but a goodie, a 1962 era film. It is Journey to the Seventh Planet. Isn't that right? Yeah, that's right. Journey to the Seventh Planet. Now, I know I've seen this one before. I've seen it probably multiple times, but for some reason it gets blurry on what film this is. Because I've seen so many 60s era sci-fi films that I can't remember too much about it. I think this is the one where I don't know if they crash land on a planet or they land on a planet where there's an entity on the planet that can mess with their minds, make them see things, hallucinate, and they pretty much are just trying to get the hell off of this planet after being trapped there by this weird alien brain being thing. But really cool stuff, great practical effects for the era, a great quality to it. It's a 60s sci-fi film in all sense of that term. If you think of 60s sci-fi, you always think of the same thing. Astronauts going to a planet, finding monsters, getting into situations, trouble. They're pretty much similar, all those movies, but this one does it really well, really entertaining. Some great concepts, ideas, and a pretty classy presentation. But picked it up on Blu-ray, another Kino Lorber. I have so many of these damn movies, but definitely something to check out if that tickles your fancy. If you're a 60s sci-fi kind of person and you want to check out an interesting flick, boom, check out this one. But let's keep moving along to another sci-fi film, but this one's from the late 50s. 1959's Invisible Invaders. And just like the other one, it's another Kino Lorber release. Can't get enough of those sons of bitches. But yeah, this one is very interesting because it has one part science fiction with aliens and then another part zombie film. It's very, very weird. Pretty much just people are possessed, as you can kind of see them up there, zombies. So you got like dead, these people that are kind of deadish or whatever, like attacking regular living people, and they're trying to survive this alien invasion. Just a really interesting mixture of sci-fi and horror that I guess was frankly ahead of its time a little bit. Very, very interesting film. Definitely one to check out if you like your late 50s, 60s sci-fi films. This one's one of the ones that are more memorable just because of that wacky premise, and it really just goes headlong into it. It doesn't pull back. It doesn't just give you that kind of premise and doesn't deliver and seeing that these zombies and just things like that. It really just goes for it and enjoys every minute of it, just like me watching this flick. But that is Invisible Invaders. Just a really fun late 50s sci-fi film that just has an interesting premise. Ooh, next up, I did not know I picked this one in this lineup. Oh, This one is another, I mentioned the last video, I think it was the last video, right? Yeah. My top 10 list, the next top 10 list I have coming up is going to be Guilty Pleasures. And this one is near the top of the pile of Guilty Pleasures for me. I will defend this movie until I die. I think it is silly as hell, but so entertaining that it should be illegal. The movie I'm talking about is Demolition Man! Oh my god. I want to talk about this movie forever. This is just one of those movies that if it's on TV, I'm screwed, because I'm not going anywhere, but I'm just going to sit down and watch this movie. Even though I own it in multiple formats, I'm going to sit down and watch this movie, because it is just so zany, weird, silly, action-packed, funny, insane, ridiculous. Obviously, it is a movie that stars Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes as two enemies. Of course, Sylvester Stallone is the good guy, the good cop, and Wesley Snipes is the bad guy, Simon Phoenix, as he goes by in the film. But they all right, a quick summary. They both get frozen, and I don't even know what year it is, 1990s or something like that. And they thaw out in, I think, around now. I think it's around 2018, 19. And the future is just totally different. People don't swear, there's no violence. They're all pussies, pretty much. So these guys get thawed back out because Simon Phoenix here, somebody lets him loose. So they gotta unthaw this guy to hunt him down. And they just pretty much go at it in this future city, and nobody knows what to do because he's the only guy that I can't explain it. Just watch it. Just watch this movie. I don't care if this isn't your kind of thing. Just watch it. Turn your brain off. Have fun. Some amazing one-liners. Some funny scenes. Hilarious fish out of water story because they don't know how to do certain things in this time period. Especially Sylvester Stallone's character. The three seashells is all I'm going to say. But yeah. It's great. Sandra Bullock's in it, and in whatever earlier roles before she blew up. It's awesome. Demolition Man is awesome, and I am not ashamed. I am not ashamed to say that. Yeah, I'm just going to end it there. It's awesome. Boom. Demolition Man. Picked it up on Blu-ray because it's badass, and I am badass. But let's keep moving on to a different kind of sci-fi film. This one's more of the 70s era film of sci-fi where it's doom and gloom, end of the world, humankind is shitty, and all that kind of fun stuff. I love it. It is Soylent Green! And of course there's Charlton Heston right there, looking all serious. But yeah, this one, I reviewed this one last year sometime, so check out the review on that. This is just a really, really great film. It's totally depressing, extremely depressing, but a great science fiction film set in the future in a dystopian kind of world. Government controls everything. The people are poor, begging for food in the streets. There's a select group of people that are rich, that are segregated from the rest of the population that's all overpopulated, living in shanty towns and crowded into apartment complexes, sleeping on stairs. Oh god, cats and dogs living together. It's just crazy. So yeah, it's a really, really cool film that just sets a tone and rides it all the way to the bitter end. Charlton Heston is amazing in it. He really knocks out these late 70s, or these 70s era sci-fi films and action films. Does an amazing job in this film. One of his classic roles. Just a great film all around. Definitely check it out if you haven't watched it. It's a really good movie to just kind of get into that whole era of films, and maybe you'll start. It'll be your gateway drug into those kind of films. But Soylent Green, amazing film, great classic sci-fi film that just depresses the shit out of you. All right, let's keep going. Hey, I told you I was going to get water last time I did this, so I remember this time. Oh my god, that's so good. All right, on to it. Well, how do I even introduce this film? It's by visionary filmmakers that made a really amazing, well, debut film. Well, not debut because they had another one before it, but I'm just going to tell you what the movie is. Cloud Atlas. And I know a lot of people are mixed on this film. And when I said visionary filmmakers, the Wachowski brothers, who at the time when they did The Matrix, they were Wachowski brothers. I believe they were the Wachowski siblings because one of them had a sex change during this time period. And now they are the Wachowski sisters. So whatever these sisters decide to do in the future, I guess they're going to be doing a Matrix 4th movie. Who knows? But I enjoyed Cloud Atlas because it is probably the most, or one of the most ambitious films that I've seen put to screen. And I guess ambitious storylines or the concept, because what they do in this film is they try to blend, I don't even remember how many stories, 5 or 6, and they're all different stories in different time periods, different, it's just, they blend far-flung future stories with prehistoric time stories, modern day stories, and they all intermix. So it's a movie that's about, I don't even know if I can even define this movie, but it's kind of it's how the past and present and future interweave with each other, and that some people, I don't know if it's like souls or something like that, blend through time. So people are retelling the same story over and over again, and a lot of things refer to the other. It's very weird. I'm not saying it works perfectly. I'm saying the concept is felt throughout the movie, so you feel that concept and you get the idea of what they're doing. There's a lot of contrasting elements to the film. So, I mean, goofy elements, serious tone, taboo elements. It's just really a weird mixture of stuff. Actors you would not expect in roles. It's really odd. It's very odd. Amazing soundtrack. Just very, very strange. It's one of those movies that it's a miracle it was put to film in the first place, and that it was actually distributed in theaters, and that people had a chance to see it in theater. It's just very odd. And I know that they really went out on a limb in this film, but for me, I think it paid off. I don't think it paid off for their career because they've kind of went to shit because this movie didn't do too well. Jupiter Ascending didn't do too well. So yeah, they took a stab at it. I thought it was a very well crafted film with some very ambitious ideas, some amazing moments, very odd. Odd stuff, but that is Cloud Atlas, and I peg it as sci-fi just because it has a lot of sci-fi elements in it, and just the whole concept is very, 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 very out there. But let's move it on to a movie that is an anthology film based on a TV series that has a great mixture of science fiction and horror, because there's a lot of horrific elements in this whole series, the series in general, and in this anthology film. The movie I'm talking about next is the Twilight Zone, the movie. And if you love the Twilight Zone series like I do, this definitely takes that flavor and runs with it through a feature-length film. I believe there's 3 different stories, but don't quote me on that. But they all deal with different things. Like one deals on racism. Another one, I don't even know if it deals with it. It's just a kid who controls people and does weird stuff, and they traps adults. And then what's the other story in here? I can't remember. Oh, the airplane one, the famous airplane one, that's based off of the William Shatner episode where he's trapped on he's on a plane having anxiety and sees there's the thing on the wing of the plane. And yep, the Twilight Zone, the movie. Just a great cast too. I mean, there's a lot of who's who of Hollywood at the time. I believe this is in the 80s when this came out. 83. Damn, I didn't think it was that long ago. I thought it was maybe later 80s. But yep, great cast of characters. John Lithgow, just name off the top of my head. I know Dan Aykroyd has a small part as an ambulance driver. I don't know why that always pops into my head. Yeah, it's just a really, really amazing anthology film that captures the spirit of the television series and just kind of brings it into the modern age of the 80s there. But yeah, I love this movie. I haven't watched it in a long time too. I should probably revisit that. Give it another watch, because it has been a long while. I think I used to watch it when it was on HBO or something like that back in the day, all the time. But yep, Twilight Zone the movie on Blu-ray. Booyah. Good stuff. Very good stuff. And would you believe it? We are at the last movie. I don't know if I've been going too fast or if I'm talking. I'm starting to get lightheaded, so I don't know what's going on. But here, let's end it with a kind of pulpy, future actioneer. I don't even know what you would call it. There's a lot of comedic elements in it, but there's a lot of, I don't know, a lot of strange stuff. The movie I'm talking about is Cherry 2000. Look at that cherry cover. So bright, I can't even see what the hell's going on. But yep, Cherry 2000. Another Kino Lorber release on this bad boy. But this one centers around a very, very, very funny story. Or just very obscure story that you wouldn't really expect in a film. But this sci-fi film follows a man whose sex bot malfunctions, and he has to go into a wasteland because the factory that used to make his sex bot went out of commission, and he's going to go get a new body, saves the chip of the old one, puts it in the new body to bring it back, and he has to get a bounty hunter to take him into the wastelands to retrieve his sex bot. And the bounty hunter is a beautiful red-headed chick played by Melanie Griffith, and I think I said her name right. Yep. And yeah. I pretty much summed up that film to perfection. There wasn't anything I left out. That is the movie. This guy just goes into the wasteland, fights a bunch of weirdos and psychotics and stuff to get a new sex bot to bring back home. And that is Cherry 2000. Just a really tongue-in-cheek kind of action-adventure sci-fi film that's set in the future with the sci-fi elements. But it's a future that's it's post-apocalyptic, but half of the movie when he's in the city, it's futuristic world, modern kind of city, and then the rest of it's in desolate wastelands, fighting clans of weirdos and stuff like that. So it's a strange mixture with a strange premise, so it perfectly fits. Cherry 2000, just a really fun film that probably no one talks about, and maybe I'll do a review on it because it really is weird and fun. But that's the last one. Good old Cherry 2000 is the Cherry on Our Sunday. For this video of Sci-Fi Collection, the second part. So we're through a handful of movies so far. Got a handful more to go with varying degrees of strange qualities and classic sci-fi fare. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. And found some kind of gems that you didn't really think of in the first place and forgot they even existed. And maybe track them down for yourself. Watch them, collect them, whatever you'd like. But guys, that's it for me today. I will see you next time at either a movie review, a collection video, whatever the heck I got going. I know I got to work on that top 10 guilty pleasures because I've covered 2 in the last 2 videos of the ones that are going to be popping up in that. So I better get on that before I unveil everything. And then why the hell would I even make a video then at that point? But guys, that's it. See ya. Get out of my house. Go have a get outside, even though it's shitty out now that it's winter. Do something. Do something with your life. All right. Take care. Have fun. Stay out of trouble. Later.